Hi, David.
Hi, Rosabelle. It's your friend David, as you know, because you just said my name, David.
It's always good to be sure. Anyone could have taken your phone.
Today's topic for Flightless Bird is about the downfall of one of my old favorite Christian musicians. And you won't know anything about them, but I'm wondering if anyone that you've been a fan of has had a big downfall.
I think it's inevitable that everyone has been a fan of someone who's been cancelled in the past decade. The one that immediately came to mind is not really the number one most upsetting example, but this author that I used to really love, I think was accused of sexual assault with one of his students. But I never really followed it up. I just stopped reading his work.
Do you think you'd ever pick the book up again?
I really loved the book. I really loved his writing. It's really sad. But I don't think I would. I really believe, you can't really... some people think you can separate the art from the artist, but art is made by people.
Do you think if I got cancelled, you'd continue listening to the hit podcast Flightless Bird?
Do you know, David, I actually think about this all the time.
Oh, what the fuck?
I'm always thinking about, what will I do when you get cancelled? And how bad would it have to be for me to completely cut ties with you?
And how does it play out?
It's really complicated. Do you think you'd stand by me if I got cancelled?
No, absolutely not.
What? You don't even know what I did yet.
No, it depends what you did. It's the levels, isn't it, of what people do and what you're willing to put up with. And then also there's levels of would you still see them in private or never in public, or is it just a complete cutoff?
Yeah, well, but isn't that a bit weird or hypocritical to cut them off in public but still see them in private?
That's what I'd do with you. If you were cancelled, I'd still talk to you in private, but you'd be cut from this podcast. I'd go and retroactively take you out of all the Flightless Bird intros you've ever done.
You could
replace
me
you with
an AI. Wow. Okay.
I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. Now, last week we delved into the world of Christian contemporary music, or CCM for short. Rob and I revisiting some of the Christian bands we grew up with and sort of loved. That episode aired a few days after Charlie Kirk's memorial, which, if you didn't notice, was full of Christian contemporary music. It was a reminder that CCM is deeply embedded in America. And yes, that includes in American politics. In last week's episode, we briefly touched on two Christian bands that I personally loved, DC Talk and the Newsboys. And it's to those bands that we turn to today and the pretty dark, twisted story behind them. It's a story that touches on so many deeply American things. It gets very weird and very dark, so if you have kids listening in the car, this one probably isn't for them. So, prepare to learn about two of the biggest Christian bands of all time and just how unhinged things got, because this is the Christian Chaos episode.
Flightless, flightless, flightless bird touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird touchdown in America.
Rob, we considered calling this episode Christian Music Part 2.
Yeah. Well, we did that for internally.
Yeah.
Internally. We knew this was coming as we made Part 1, which I guess a peek behind the curtain, this was going to be the main Christian music episode.
This was going to be the focus.
And then I was like, we should maybe approach it so we don't...
not just have our entire episode just be this is a hideous story from the world of Christian music. There's also stuff here that isn't hideous. And so let's ease into things a little bit.
Yes, exactly. Let's not offend any Christian listeners we have by saying this is the representation of all Christian music.
Of all Christian music.
Yes.
Now, as thinking of last week, I bought you a little present.
Oh.
I was in my favorite store, Hot Topic, today. So I got this Hellraiser shirt in Hot Topic that I'm wearing right now because I thought it's appropriate for this particular episode. If you haven't seen, this is Hellraiser 2. Have you seen Hellraiser?
No, but I know enough about
it's
it.
sort of a little, it's like there's this little cube, and if you open it up on Earth and have sex or maybe murder someone, these horrible creatures come from hell and they sort of torture you to death. I don't know what they do. They just there to torture you. It's very scary. So I got my Hellraiser top, and I also got you this.
An Amber Lynn shirt. Thank you.
Because I know that you are a big fan. And
we had a text exchange about this.
Yeah, what do you think?
It's great. Thanks. Thank you.
I got to say, it was on sale for $12.
Yep.
And they said with that shirt, with the sale deal, you can get another 2 shirts for free.
You said no.
So I said no. It's like I don't need any more shirts. But I love seeing that one jumping out at me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about that band.
Very topical.
Very topical.
At Hot Topic.
God, you're insufferable. Now, this episode, so this sort of came to be because I did some reporting on my newsletter Webworm on this entire story a few months ago. And so this is all based on reporting that was there. But when I was approached about this story, essentially some people emailed me saying, are you aware that some crazy shit is going on with the Newsboys? And the Newsboys for me were like, holy shit, that's the first band I ever heard. That's the first live performance I ever saw. Like, what is going on? But when I started looking into the story, I found out that 2 other journalists had been digging into it for like 2 years. And so there was this moment where a journalist for The Guardian and an independent journalist and then me, Super Late, were all trying to kind of outscoop each other.
You pretty much just read everything they had reported already and
pretty much,
that into
and just basically just stole all their reporting.
That's how journalism works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You just find like a smaller reporter reporting on it, and then just retell the story. Okay.
No, so for my Webworm piece, I interviewed those 2 journalists that had done all the reporting on it, and sort of got that insight, and then went down some other angles, and then I built that Webworm piece up into this audio documentary today. And I think even if you don't know anything about DC Talk or Newsboys, which will probably be most of our listeners, this is still pretty wild.
Before you have mentioned them, I have never heard of either of them.
So a few little fun facts. DC Talk was very cool and very hip, sort of like part hip hop, part soul. And a fun fact about them is that they had their big single, Jesus Freak, had a very cool video. And the reason the video was so cool, and I think I briefly mentioned this last week, is that 9 Inch Nails had made their video for Hurt, which is a very iconic video which uses a lot of historical footage. And it's kind of like all cut together in a very emotive way in this live performance that 9 Inch Nails did. DC Talk saw that and they're like, we want to be edgy. Like, this is like Hurt's the biggest video on MTV right now.
Make the Christian version of this?
Make a Christian version. And so essentially it's the same thing where it's like a band sort of performance in front of like found footage of like bombs going off. And
it's not like Passion of the
Christ. Not like Passion of the
Christ,
but like very like big, intense like footage from history. And I remember seeing the DC Talk video at the time, having no idea about 9 Inch Nails and going, this is really cool.
Well, so like 9 Inch Nails were those 2 reporters reporting on this originally, and you're like DC Talk.
Truly horrific. Came in late and copied. Yeah, awful. But that's exactly the same.
Okay.
The final bit of the story that I love is that I went to high school in a town called Tauranga in New Zealand. I was in a particular part of Tauranga called Bethlehem, which is where the story came from, that I was born in Bethlehem on Christmas Day, but I just went to high school there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found out years later that a guy that taught in the media studies class at the local Polytech, do you have Polytechs in America?
Like a trade school?
Like a trade school.
Okay.
Yeah, at a trade school. And I found out that the lecturer there, Simon Maxwell, was the guy that directed both those videos. And somehow, after this amazing like video career of doing 9 Inch Nails, DC Talk, I think he did something for the Rolling Stones. For a bunch of reasons, he ended up teaching in New Zealand, which I just found like just very fascinating.
Both these bands are from Nashville, is that right?
Newsboys came out of Australia. DC Talk, not out of Nashville, but ended up in Nashville. And they're both there now.
Got it.
And that's something that I hadn't understood until this, is that a lot of contemporary Christian music is all based in Nashville. I thought it was just the home of country, but Christian shit is like very Nashville based.
DC Talk was originally from where?
They formed in Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. In 87.
Are there members, any crossover members?
Yeah, so what happened, the reason that I'm talking about these two bands is that DC Talk eventually broke up, and then one of their singers, Michael Tait, he ended up becoming the lead singer for Newsboys.
Okay.
And so two of these giant Christian bands fused essentially into like a mega group. And just to prove my genuine fandom, these are some really cool DC Talk shirts. I've got my Newsboys shirts in New Zealand, unfortunately, but this is one of them. Those are the three members.
Michael Tait's the one in the orange?
Michael Tait is the guy in orange, correct? And then this is my favorite DC Talk shirt. It says Jesus Freak on it.
Okay.
And Jesus Freak was basically a song that was about being like, yeah, I'm a Jesus freak. Like, I'm cool. Like, I'm into Jesus. Like, this is awesome. Like, growing up, I looked to these bands as being, and specifically Michael Tait, as being like an idea of like what I should be.
Yeah.
And it kind of turns out that for the last 2 decades, he's kind of like the worst role model you could ever imagine.
Yeah, let's find out.
Chapter 1, Israel, the Archangel Michael, and Teddy Ruxpin. I've been talking to Israel Anthem for a few months now because if anyone knows about DC Talk and Michael Tait, it's him. Israel grew up immersed in Christian music. It was his entire reality.
I was born in Atlanta. When I was 3 or 4, we moved to Nashville, and that's where my childhood home always was. But I mainly grew up on a tour bus that had a painting on the side of it of shirtless Angel Michael holding a sword over his head with his foot on the devil's head.
All of that starts to make sense when you realize that Israel was born into one of the most successful gospel trios of the 20th century.
My grandmother, mother, and grandfather were in a group called the Rambos. That's how the family career started. My grandmother ended up writing 2,000 plus songs for Johnny Cash, Elvis, Whitney Houston, Dolly. She's on the Nashville Walk of Fame. And then my mom, her name is Reba Rambo. She had a very successful gospel music career as well.
Israel's father, Donnie McGuire, was a music producer, essentially putting the family business on steroids. In 1981, his parents won a Grammy for Best Gospel Performance for their album, The Lord's Prayer. Then there was his gran, Dottie Rambo, also on that tour bus when he was a kid.
My grandmother, she was the first white artist to ever record with a black choir. Actually, Fred Trump's faction of the KKK sent her letters basically saying, if you perform live with them, we'll kill you. And the first show, she walked on stage and put her arms out and was like, if you're going to kill me, can you do it now? Because I'd like to play a full set.
She did play that full set, arms outstretched. She'd go on to record albums that would win awards. The Soul of Me won a Grammy in 1967. And like her name, Dottie Rambo's song is awesome.
I guess you wonder why the tears roll down my face.
I think it's important to get all this background about Israel's parents and grandparents down just to show how deep he was in the world of Christian music. So when a new contemporary Christian band called DC Talk appeared in the late 80s and early 90s, Israel's young mind was blown.
I didn't sleep with stuffed animals. I slept with soft cassette cases and a teddy bear that you could put cassettes in the back and he would move his mouth with the music.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. He was a Teddy Ruxpin. He was a portable tape player. So I had my tape cases and that. And the first cassette I ever bought was DC Talk's New Thing. And the first CD I ever bought was DC Talk's Free at Last.
Sister Mildred, we're gonna play Free at Last, Free at Last, thank God Almighty.
I loved rap. I used to wear Jinko and gel my hair back with extreme hold ponytail. I was in the 90s, man. But they were the only Christian artists that you could put on in front of a non-Christian and they wouldn't completely laugh at you.
DC Talk was Toby McKeon, Kevin Max Smith, and the very charismatic Michael Tait. Toby rapped, Kevin rocked, and Tait brought the soul and heart of DC Talk. They had 5 studio albums together before they eventually broke up, and are now known as the most popular, overtly Christian act of all time.
They were my favorite. I really looked up to them. I cannot explain how much I really loved and respected them and wanted to be like them at that age.
Israel wasn't alone. Christian kids and teens the world over got hooked on DC Talk. Teens like Josiah.
My name is Josiah Hesse. I'm a journalist from Denver, Colorado, originally from a little town in North Iowa called Clear Lake, the town that killed Buddy Holly. And that's where I spent 20 years, as an evangelical conservative. Throughout my childhood, there was literally nothing I was involved in that wasn't connected to evangelical Christianity. No sports, drama, academics, nothing.
I'm talking to Josiah because, like Israel, he's a vital part of this story in ways you'll find out later. And like Israel, he was a DC Talk mega fan.
It's often said that DC Talk were the Beatles of Christian rock. And that's, I think that's accurate on a number of levels when you think about everything the Beatles meant, not just as songwriters, but as cultural icons. DC Talk, obviously not on the same scale. They didn't change the world. They're not universally known. But in that world, they were as big as the Beatles. People screamed, trembled, freaked out. I had their posters on my wall, their T-shirts, all their cassettes and CDs. And these guys were my image, not only of godliness, but of cool, of kind of hipster rock fashion.
Over in New Zealand, me and my Christian friends loved DC Talk too. They were one of the first bands I listened to, and the first band I ever saw live at a thing called Parachute Christian Music Festival in New Zealand back in 1995. They felt incredibly hip and cool, hiring the same director-to-shoot Jesus freak that Nine Inch Nails had just used to create their iconic Hurt video. And I had no idea about this at the time, but back when I was a teenage fan in New Zealand, DC Talk was very heavily aligned with the Republican Party.
If you take yourself back to the late 90s and 2000s, gay marriage was the wedge issue of the presidential campaign in 2004 in George W. Bush's campaign, which, DC Talk and Michael Tait never formally endorsed him, but they did events with him. They wrote a song called Let's Roll about 9/11. That was, Bush's big phrase. So Tait was kind of, in a lot of ways, an ambassador culturally and politically of this movement. He was mentored by Jerry Falwell. The whole band was. And they're often described as a kind of like a mouthpiece for Christian right talking points. In the 80s, they were using hip hop. In the 90s, it was rock music. But they were, taking this message of the Christian right to young people through this music.
DC Talk, with its very charismatic black member Michael Tait, talked about racial reconciliation, religious persecution, and sexual purity. They basically gave the Republican Party a rock and roll facelift, making the idea of politics cool to America's Christian kids. And it's here in the story that you need to know about another huge Christian band, this one hailing from Australia. Chapter 2, The Newsboys, MAGA, and Kevin Sorbo. If DC Talk was one of the first bands I ever heard, Newsboys was the second. I fucking loved the Newsboys and maintain to this day that they wrote certified bangers. I ran so far, will you take me back again? And Josiah agrees.
the Newsboys, to keep that analogy going, could be said to be like the Rolling Stones of Christian rock. Maybe not in terms of rebellion, because you think of that dynamic of the Beatles and the Stones, like the Stones were known for being much more rebellious, even though they came from art school.
The Newsboys formed in 1985 in Queensland, Australia, releasing 17 studio albums over their career. They had a number of lineup changes, including when lead singer John James left in 1997 to go preaching. He later revealed he had left due to drug and alcohol use. Without him, the band soldiered on, becoming one of Australia's biggest musical exports, despite being pretty much unknown by the general population. While the Newsboys grew, DC Talk started to pare things back, eventually stopping the band altogether in the 2000s. And that's when something amazing happened in the world of Christian music. In 2009, the Newsboys, still lacking a key lead singer, hired Michael Tait. Essentially, two of the world's biggest bands in Christian music merged together, becoming a kind of supergroup. They had more success than ever, launching into a new era of stardom with their song God's Not Dead in 2011.
My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion.
According to Josiah, 2011 was when the Newsboys got mega big.
That was a big hit in evangelical circles. It was kind of an anthem of the MAGA movement. It was sung on January 5th, the day before the big riot in the U.S. Capitol. And it's sung at evangelical rallies. The Newsboys performed at Evangelicals for Trump rallies. They performed in the White House during his first term. Michael Tait was kind of instrumental in bridging the gap between Trump and evangelicals. It wasn't him alone, but he was a big part of that. And especially with gaining more traction with Black evangelical voters, which Trump did do better with, slightly better with, in his third run for president. And well, the song God's Not Dead was more than just a song. It was a movie that the Newsboys starred in. And Michael Tait had a role in, throughout all of the sequels. And all of these movies are Christian movies, and they're based around Christian persecution in America, whether it's the courts, education, the media, politics, academia. There's all these stories. I think there's like 5 or 6 of these movies, and they're all stories about people being persecuted. And it always leads up to, the Newsboys, their big cameo in it. And so, Michael Tait has had a substantial impact on this culture and the politics surrounding it, really going back to the 80s. So you don't get that much bigger than Michael Tait in this world.
In the first God is Dead film, released in 2014 and starring Kevin Sorbo, Michael Tait converts a far-left journalist who has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. The conversion happens in the Newsboys' on-screen green room. DC Talk and the Newsboys were big in Christian circles, politics, and in entertainment. But in the background of their success, dark secrets were hidden. And earlier this year, an Australian journalist finally brought some of them to light. Chapter 3: The Australian, Cocaine, and Partying. Jessica Morris is a freelance journalist based about an hour out of Melbourne, Australia.
I was born in 1990, and so when DC Talk and Newsboys were really probably starting to flourish and at their prime, I was too young to appreciate their music. But I looked up to all the youth group kids who loved them and wanted to be just like them.
How long were you working on the story from getting that initial tip to hitting publish?
2.5 years.
Morris is the journalist who broke the story about the real Michael Tait. All her reporting is available at the Roy's Report, a Christian journalism outlet. She tells me her first tip was while in Nashville, the Newsboys' current HQ.
I was at the restaurant Cafe Fido in West End, and I was catching up with a friend/contact who's in Christian music, and they said to me, "Can you do something about this band? Can you do something about Tait?" And I was like, well, why? Like they were using some pretty heavy words. I was like, why? Like, I trust you. And they basically said no one else is doing anything, and the acts that they're doing, they called them evil.
At first, it wasn't clear what that evil was. And evil gets confusing in conservative Christian circles. For many Christians, being gay is considered the height of evil. And the word was that maybe Michael was gay.
There was this underlying thing in Nashville where everyone was like, look, he's probably gay. He may be doing things, but we don't have proof of it, so we're going to leave it. That was the general consensus.
Israel Anthem, who you heard from earlier, was one of those Nashville locals who knew about this aspect of Tait. He'd seen it himself at an award show after party a decade ago.
The Dove Awards, for people who don't know, are like the Christian Grammys. They, to a lot of people, they mean something. So one year, I'd made a bluegrass record that won that year with my family. It was the first record I made with them. It was actually kind of a cool moment. But after the like award ceremony, my sister Destiny is like, "Do you want to go to the real after party?" And we went to like a penthouse like hotel, and it was probably a good, I'd say 30 to 45% of like the artists and winners that were at the ceremony, but it was everybody who was in the closet. Everybody who was like literally pretty much in the closet, and there was alcohol there. And somebody said, it's crazy. Every gay person in gospel music is here. And somebody said, except Michael Tait. And somebody else said, that man's not a homosexual. That man is an abuser.
So abuser was also a word being muttered, not just at the Dove Awards after parties, but all over the Nashville music scene.
There were people who were like, look, there's a lot of partying, and we don't like the partying, like it's concerning. I've heard that there was rumors about cocaine use.
That's where things started. Jessica didn't care if Tait was gay, but cocaine use and abuse in the world's biggest Christian band, that might be a story.
Working with my primary source, they were able to give me the names of probably 5 or 6 people. And it was then going, okay, I'll then reach out to this person because they trust this mutual source. And from there, the trust was built. So I found this whole circle of sources. It probably started at like maybe 6 people. Now it's well over 100, which is mind-boggling for me.
Jessica flew back to Australia and got to work. Emails, Zooms, phone calls, slowly building trust and trying to figure out what the hell was going on. As she talked to more and more people about Michael Tait, she found some incredibly disturbing stories.
Probably one of the most serious that I reported on was an incident that occurred in Fargo, North Dakota in December 2014. Now, that was when Michael was with the band, the Newsboys. He was their frontman. And on this off day on a tour Michael and a lot of Newsboys crew were drinking. And what happened was one night there was this young woman who was 23 at the bar, and she, after a night out, she accepted a shot of tequila from Michael Tait, and she can't remember anything afterwards. Basically, she went back with her friends, and we also did the same thing, access police files, footage, all sorts of things, and placed together what happened that night. And we found that she was essentially went to a room or led to a room, you could interpret different ways, by a crew member of the Newsboys. Not Michael Tait, but led to a room when then Michael Tait appeared. We don't have footage of what happened in that room, but she does have a memory of waking up in a very awful position, put it that way, where she believes she was sexually assaulted. And we see a footage of her leaving the room and she collapses in front of her door. And this all took place probably between, the hours of maybe 1:20 a.m. to 2 a.m. And so basically later, Michael Tait, he admitted to multiple people, I didn't do anything, but I watched.
The woman was a Christian fan of DC Talk. She'd never had sex before. The allegation of what happened in that room wasn't sex, it was rape. Not by Tait, but Tait was in the room when it happened.
In addition, a more disgusting detail, she was on her period at the time, and she woke up the next day and her tampon was shoved all the way up, which does not happen. It was with absolute force, and she was like, something is wrong here. Over the next few days, she went to hospital multiple times. She filed a police report. the case went cold. And so nothing ever happened, even though multiple people alleged that they then spoke to the Newsboys management about this incident. And people have told me on and off record that it was essentially covered up. Now, the Newsboys, to be clear, have denied that.
Jessica had discovered a world where Tait was involved in abuse, where management quite possibly knew about it and were actively helping to cover things up. But this year, things were set to explode. In January, 5 months before Jessica's story came out, Tait resigned suddenly as lead singer of the Newsboys after 15 years as their frontman. In a press release, he and the band didn't really indicate why. Tait said, "I've made for me what is a monumental and heartfelt decision that it's time to step down from Newsboys. This decision does not come lightly and has been a shock even to myself, but amidst prayer and fasting, I have clarity that this is the right decision." Fans were confused, but Jessica knew exactly why he had left. There were already murmurings on TikTok about his sexuality, and Tait himself probably knew a load of secrets were about to become public. Jessica published her first story about Tait on June 4. Hers was the story that blew this whole thing open, and the headline wasn't subtle. Former Newsboys frontman Michael Tait accused of sexual assault, grooming, and substance abuse dating back to 2004. At the time, Paramore's Hayley Williams took to social media to say, "Fuck all of you who knew and didn't say anything."
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Flightless Bird is brought to you by Bombas. Now, newsflash, fall is here. The kids are back at school, vacations are over, sorry about that, and it's officially the start of cozy season, which means it's time to slide into some Bombas socks. Look, you know Bombas by now if you listen to the show. They're the most comfortable socks. I adore them. They're pretty much all I wear when it comes to socks. They also do slippers, tees, and underwear as well, and they're made from premium materials that actually make sense for this time of the year. One of the best things about Bombas as well, for every item you buy, they donate one to someone experiencing homelessness. Over 150 million items have been donated thanks to customers. I've talked about my favorite hungry caterpillar socks that they put out. Love those. I find they're very snug around my legs, which I really love. I love their ankle socks with their stripy tops. God, I can't talk enough about how good these socks are. Also, merino wool that keeps you warm when it's chilly, but cool when it's not. And they've also got cotton that's softer, stronger, and more breathable than regular cotton. Even ragwool, the thick, durable, classic cozy sock you'll want all fall. They do all of it. And also, they do footwear. It's not just socks. They design slippers that make it hard to leave the house. From Sherpa-lined Sunday slippers to packing-friendly gripper slippers, and even waterproof Eva Friday slides. They do it all. Another thing, they're available through international shopping to over 200 countries. Not just an American thing, people. It's not all about America. Now, head over to bombas.com/bird and use code BIRD for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/bird, code BIRD at checkout. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Shopify. Now, when you've been online shopping, have you ever noticed that purple Shop Pay button and how easy it makes buying something online? I bet you didn't know that that purple button is the telltale sign that a store is entirely powered by Shopify. Shopify doesn't just make it easy to buy, it makes it incredibly easy to start a business, no matter what your experience is. There's a reason that purple Shop Pay button is so loved. Now, you know how it goes. It's midnight, you're in bed, you're scrolling through, you're shopping for some stuff, you're adding things to your cart. After 15 minutes, you decide you've done enough damage to your wallet, you decide to check out. But then you remember your wallet card, it's in the living room, and you don't really want to be bothered getting out of bed to get it. Just as you're getting ready to abandon your cart, that's when you see that purple shop button. The shop button that has all your payment and shipping information saved, saving you time while you stay warm in your bed. That is Shopify, and there's a reason that so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes everything easier, from checkout to creating your own storefront. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, from household names to brands just getting started. It also gives you a leg up from day dot with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand style. And forget about any of that boring code stuff. You can also tackle all of those important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. All the stuff you need when you're selling online. Did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. Your customers already love it, so get on board. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/bird. Go to shopify.com/bird, shopify.com/bird. Chapter 4. The Real Michael Tait. Josiah freelances for The Guardian, and while Jessica was working on her story, he was getting ready to publish his own. His report was more focused on Tait's younger male victims.
For the most part, they all followed a very similar playbook, which is young Christian men, some as young as 16, but 16 to early 20s, handsome, hipster indie kids, think the 2000s, the kind of flat iron, floppy hair, and eye makeup, and ambitious, either to be musicians or to work in the Christian music industry. And they meet their hero, the guy that some of them said they slept with his cassettes as kids, like myself. They had his posters on the wall and were just awestruck by him. And he says things like, let's jam together, or let me introduce you to this person. And he brings them to parties at his house in Nashville where there are famous musicians hanging out. And there's a kind of what could be characterized as grooming going on, where, there's an overwhelming sense of awe at the beginning, and then he starts to isolate these people. Some of them that I interviewed, and they didn't know this until recently, that they were friends and they had both been assaulted by him. They only found out in the last year that it had happened to their best friend. And in those cases, Tait seemingly separated them, and that's when he started introducing them to harder drugs.
Cocaine was a common one.
It might start off with going out to bars, drinking at the house, maybe some cigarettes, maybe smoking a little weed. And then when they start spending more time alone, that's when he pulls out cocaine and more booze, like shots. And then there's a hot tub, and he has a no clothes allowed rule in the hot tub. And things progress into fondling and a lot of caressing and touching, massaging. And for several of the alleged victims that I reported on, they believed that they were drugged with some kind of sedative like Rufinol, because they just passed out. And so many of them have the same story of waking up in his bed. One of them woke up on the kitchen counter with his legs in the air, and Tait was performing oral sex on their asshole.
All of the stories just stacked up on top of each other.
Others woke up in his bed. One of them woke up in a closet, and he was, doing things to them, molesting them, performing oral sex on them. And a lot of the time it's like people saying no, or trying to roll over and act like nothing's happening. One guy said no several times and kept passing out. He said it happened 3 times.
The aftermath is just what you hear about in so many abusive situations, a kind of damage control from Tait.
It's either complete ghosting them or intense love bombing with a kind of apology, but not a specific apology. And then more offers of hey, let's go to LA this weekend. I'll fly us out there. My treat. Let's go to New York. Let me introduce you to this person. Let's work on your demo for your band. And so, as is the case with a lot of these stories, the people, 2 of them kept in touch with him after the fact. And, sexual assault with men is, it's more prevalent with women, obviously, and horrifying, but it's less reported with men. I think it's around 5% of male sexual assaults get reported, and with women, it's something like 20%, both profoundly too low. But there's a lot of stigma with that and a lot of confusion with these guys. I mean, partly because they were drugged, but also because they're like, well, what did happen? What was that? Was that me? And in some cases, Tait convinced them, like, yeah, that was you. Like, you made that happen.
From what I can tell, that pattern just kind of happened and built for the last few decades. Until last year, when someone posted a TikTok hinting at Tait's double life and the dominoes started to fall. Victims started to talk. Journalists like Jessica in Melbourne and Josiah in Denver dug in deeper. For Israel, this whole story has just been a really long time coming. He'd heard rumblings about so much of this, including at that awards after party. There are victims everywhere. And the truth is, Israel is one of them. That's why he agreed to talk to me. He wants his story to be out there too. Chapter 5. The Bathroom. It was 2001, and Israel was with his family at the ASCAP Awards. That's the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers Awards.
So DC Talk was there that night. My grandmother was being given a Songwriter of the Century. It was like a Lifetime Achievement Award. And so a lot of those people, including DC Talk, they came by the table and we took photos together.
It was a nice night, and a 13-year-old Israel had to pinch himself that he'd got to hang out with his hero, the guy he'd blasted through his Teddy Ruxpin cassette player.
And then a few months later, we were at a restaurant on West End in Nashville. So we're all at a booth. Michael walks in. He sees us. He comes over and exchanges pleasantries. Like, it was good to see y'all again. It's crazy to see y'all the other night. Just one of those. And he goes and sits down, and we continue with our meal.
At some point, Israel excuses himself and goes to the bathroom.
I go to the bathroom by myself. When I walk in, he's the only person in there. He's standing at the urinal about to start peeing. I, at this point, obviously a virgin, had not kissed anybody, really. My ideas of homosexuality, especially, were just completely uneducated. I had not seen an adult male's erect penis. I had not seen adult woman's vagina at this point. So that's the Israel that is experiencing this. I started talking, and as I'm sure you know, men talk at the urinal all the time. There's the code. You keep your head forward. I started talking about, they had released Intermission, which was a greatest hits CD that had some new songs from each of their solo projects. And as I was starting, he clearly had no problem with anybody seeing his penis the way he faced me. I was so young and naive, I didn't think, oh, there's the almost erect, big adult male's penis. I thought, man, I have a small penis. Because I was a kid. That's what I processed there. I finished before him. I go to start washing my hands. I look up from washing my hands, and he's still standing by the urinal, but now his body is fully facing me. His pants are up, zippers down, and his dick is fully erect, and he's slowly touching it and making eye contact with me. It felt like 5 minutes and 2 seconds at the same time, so I just gave him the benefit of the doubt at that time. But I looked back up after a few seconds, still doing it.
Israel alleges that happened in 2001. It would take another 24 years for the truth about Tait to come out. Chapter 6. Forgiveness, Justice, and Nashville Coffee. The day after Jessica published her story about Michael Tait, the Newsboys released a news statement about that former member. Last night, our hearts were shattered when we read the news alleging drug abuse and inappropriate sexual action by our former lead singer, Michael Tait. While Michael has not addressed these allegations, we are devastated even by the implications. When he left the band in January, Michael confessed to us and our management that he had been living a double life, but we never imagined that it could be this bad. Not long after that, Tait himself posted a new message on social media. Josiah remembers it well because it was a few days before he published even more allegations in The Guardian.
Michael Tait, just before my article came out, dropped a post on Instagram called My Confession, where he admitted to, for 20 years abusing alcohol and cocaine. And I believe the quote was, touching other men in an unwanted, sensual way, which is really, watering it down.
For Josiah, a lifetime fan of DC Talk and the Newsboys, this was all just so weird. I feel the same way. I'm no longer Christian, but up until I worked on this story and started talking to Tait's victims directly, I was still listening to DC Talk and the Newsboys sometimes. Josiah has been thinking a lot about this as he continues to report on Tait.
With the second story that I did, where a guy who was the founding manager of Evanescence, he was around the band a lot during, around DC Talk a lot during their heyday. He was in the room when they recorded Jesus Freak, and he's telling me these stories about Tait, grabbing guys' genitals. And I don't know if he was on cocaine at that time, but it is so surreal to think about myself. It wasn't just that they were in this industry or they identified as Christians. They really were propagandists, ultimately, that instructed us on what to do and what not to do when it came to, hedonism, morality. So it was surreal to think about Michael Tait, having sex with underage men and snorting cocaine in the midst of all that.
As for Tait himself, he was spotted in Las Vegas and then in Utah, apparently going to rehab for a period. But as of right now, Jessica tells me he's been spotted back in Nashville.
Since the stories have broken, I've had 3 random people sources reach out to me to saying, I saw Michael Tait in a coffee shop in Nashville today, or I saw him at a Kroger. I saw this. I've had some people tell me a little bit off record, but basically he's still, as far as I'm aware, without talking to him, he's still living his life in Nashville. He's still doing his thing. I know he's got a very supportive community around him who care for him and are taking care of him. And yeah, he has, it's ironic to me that with these allegations, he can walk around his hometown apparently relatively carefree and get coffee, while I have sources and some survivors who are actually terrified that if their name gets dropped, they will just lose everything.
For Jessica, it says a lot about how certain Christian organizations think about forgiveness and justice, and how these two things are treated with very different levels of importance.
In the evangelical community and the Christian community, and I include myself in that, I think it says a lot about the fact that we should value repentance and we should value forgiveness and owning what we've done. But there is a difference between, I think, mercy and repentance and forgiveness and justice. Justice still needs to take its place, and there's a humility that needs to come with that. And I don't, on a human level, truly don't understand why there seems to be a gap between that. I don't think you can say, well, he made a confession, so now he's okay, he's forgiven, he should be reinstored to, no, that doesn't happen. There has to be, I would say, legal consequences to this should victims choose to go forward with it. And we know that a preliminary investigation has started. So I'm really hopeful that the truth will come to light and that people will be safe.
Chapter 7, The Devil. While it's unclear if any of Tait's victims, some allegedly as young as 13, will try and take any kind of legal action, the Newsboys management certainly are, but not against Tait. On June 17, Newsboys Touring LLC and Newsboys Inc. sued a small Canadian concert promoter to the tune of $5.4 million, saying, "The Newsboys have been lowered in the estimation of right-thinking members of society. The Newsboys have been seriously injured in their credibility, character, and reputation, especially in relation to their standing in the Christian rock scene, and they have suffered damages, both reputational and special damages related to loss of opportunities." I've spoken to Sheena, the woman being sued. She says she flew to Nashville in June last year to meet with the Newsboys management to discuss bringing them on a Canadian tour. The band agreed to use her to promote 8 dates in Canada for 2025. Tickets went on sale on December 1st, 2024. On January 16th, Tait left the Newsboys. She immediately called Dave Wagner, general manager of Newsboys Touring, assuming the tour would be cancelled. Taking the Newsboys on the road without Tait would be like taking U2 on tour without Bono. Wagner told her the tour must go on. She'd have to just keep selling tickets somehow. Sheena wanted an explanation on why Tait had just suddenly left.
This is the response. He's going on 60 years old. He's been tied up with Newsboys for 15 years, and he wants to do things that he hasn't been able to do while under contract with Newsboys. Well, there's nothing we could do. He prayed about it. He made it a big faithful thing. He prayed about it. We prayed together. This is the decision.
Ticket sales plummeted. Not long after this, the TikTok about Tait's double life started circulating on social media. Sheena says that Dave Wagner responded by telling her, "We have people right now scrubbing the internet for anything like this. It will be removed. This will die down." It didn't die down.
So 3 weeks before the tour started, some of my shows I had 250 tickets in a 2,000-seater that I'm paying over $70,000 for the show.
2.5 weeks before the show, she got a call from a contact in Nashville telling her that an article about Tait was about to drop. She got in touch with Jessica Morris in Australia and learnt about the alleged rape and cover-up that happened on that Newsboys tour in 2013. After talking to alleged victims directly, she finally pulled the plug on the entire tour.
I have a 14-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter, and at no point would I put them in there.
As I FaceTime Sheena, she turns her camera around to face the dining room. It's littered in boxes filled with her possessions. The failed tour ruined her financially, and she and her husband are moving. And after all that, she's being sued by Dave Wagner's Newsboys Touring and another entity, Newsboys Inc. Newsboys Inc. is a man called Wes Campbell, the sole owner of Newsboys. Wes is the brother of Steve Campbell, Newsboys tour manager at the time of the alleged 2013 rape outlined in Jessica Morris's reporting. Wes Campbell resigned from the board of the Gospel Music Association on July 10 over the allegations that he and the whole Newsboys team helped cover up Tait's abuse. But behind the scenes, he's doing anything but back down.
The way I like to describe the situation is Wes Campbell's the fucking devil. There's a difference between committing a sin and then covering up somebody's sin and profiting off that person while keeping those sins a secret. I'm sorry, but there's a difference. He could have gotten Tait help. He could have gotten people help. He could have done something about the situation that actually helped everyone. But not only did he not do that, he hired employees to literally keep words off search engines. That's why up until this, if you search Michael Tait homosexuality, accusations, nothing. So to say, I didn't know, bullshit. And that, to me, is unforgivable in so many ways.
Israel wishes the stories had brought him closure, but he's worried about what happens next. He worries for people like Sheena, who faces financial ruin. He's worried about what will happen next in Nashville and in the world of powerful men in the city's Christian music scene.
You need to know, man, like the story is so much worse than people know yet. And it's so much deeper. Literally yesterday, the detectives that are investigating had to come by to pick up. It could be a coincidence, but there's been 4 different calibers of bullets left on our doorstep since the story dropped.
Really?
Yeah, man. Literally, the cops just picked him up. I threw away the first one because I thought it was an accident, but then I kept the next 3.
Bullets or casings?
Both. The last one was an unused shotgun shell.
I ask if Israel took any photos, and he sends me one immediately.
I'm in a townhouse. Everybody has Ring cameras. It looks like the same person, but it's just somebody who parks on the main road, wears a hoodie and a mask, and does a fast walk. They just look like a silhouette blur.
This sounds outlandish, but then this whole thing is outlandish. It's outlandish. One of the first bands I loved, 2 of the first bands I loved, ended up here. Newsboys and DC Talk were held up by me and so many Christians as something to aspire to. They were meant to be the Holy Spirit-filled moral lights guiding us out of sin. The whole time, Michael Tait couldn't have been a worse role model or a more confused guide. To think young Christians like me were scared of Nine Inch Nails and Ozzy Osbourne the whole time. We should have been more worried about some of the artists we'd see praising the name of Jesus up on stage. But the fact remains, this is so much bigger than Michael Tait. He was an abuser, but he was an abuser enabled by a town and an industry for over 2 decades. Now his secrets are being laid bare, and those that knew about it are terrified, unpredictable, and dangerous. So yeah, essentially, I feel like I can't wear my DC Talk or Newsboys
I mean, I get why.
Although, is it okay to wear them if it was like, let me think about this.
No.
Newsboys before Tait was in the band might be okay. DC Talk, no, because Tait's there the whole time.
That's like, it's not exactly like it, but that's like you want to wear early R. Kelly tour shirts.
Yeah, true. No, it's very
I mean, it's not
similar.
the same because it's not Michael Tait.
Yeah,
but,
I know. Yeah.
So you listened to Newsboys though before Michael Tait ever joined, because in 2010, 11 is when he joined.
Yeah, so I didn't do any Newsboys when Tait was on board.
I was gonna say that's semi-recent.
Yeah, completely.
For you to be listening to Christian music, knowing you.
So I still listened occasionally to some Newsboys bangers up until like a few months ago. Like I'd occasionally still listen. Entertaining Angels, I legitimately think is a banger. And that was before Tait got involved, and so I think still okay. But yeah, I was completely unaware until I dug into this that DC Talk and Newsboys had such a strong link to American politics. Like when I was in New Zealand, that was just wasn't even part of my world. For me, it was such a formative thing because they were literally the first live bands I ever saw perform. And they were safe. It was at Parachute Christian Music Festival in New Zealand, and it's kind of known as the festival that Christian kids would go to and try and like have sex in like morally okay ways. There was a thing, and I don't know if this is like in your Christian circles, but there was this idea that if it wasn't vaginal sex, that it was okay.
Vaginal sex.
Yeah, so what? So like basically, no, like
so butt sex was
butt sex was like strangely in the mental dynamics of the mental gymnastics of being ethical was okay.
Got it.
Penis and vagina, bad. Penis other places, is it sex?
But
But
in this Christian world, this Christian festival, male penis only in female butthole.
Yes, never in a male butthole, because that would be gay and that would be straight to hell. Yeah, correct. Good to get that clarity. But I never had my penis went nowhere at Parachute for the record. But I learned after the fact that was a lot of places where like Christians absolutely went nutty because it's like a bunch of kids at a festival, horny.
Yeah. Have there been any legal ramifications to the Michael Tait stuff?
No, that is all basically unfolding now. So
it's happening.
Yeah, so the authorities are looking into it, whatever that means. Police and other, whether it's federal or state authorities are definitely looking into it. And that is an ongoing thing, which is great. So Tait at the moment is back in Nashville, just like living his life. All these characters are walking around Nashville. Like Wes Campbell, he's wandering around. Michael Tait is wandering around.
Is Michael Tait now openly gay?
Well, I guess no. Like he hasn't done a post being like, I am an out and proud gay man. That hasn't happened. But it's like an open secret that now has been reported on so widely. It's just assumed. And I think it's important to it gets so icky because there's a way to look at this where you're like, if Tait could have just been himself, maybe like would have none of this happened. Like if he, but I also think that is kind of an excuse in a way as well because like he objectively did awful things. Yes. And I don't think being a closeted gay man is like an excuse to be like, oh, so I went and did all this horrible shit.
Yeah, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's somewhat of an explanation, but not
the full explanation.
But not a justification of anything.
100%. Like in a perfect world, like it shouldn't have been a sin for him to like be gay.
Right.
And maybe that would have taken the pressure off and this other shit wouldn't have happened. But it sounds like he was so predatory for so long that it's like this whole other problem going on.
Has the church, is it like a Scientology situation where they're behind these and trying to cover up some of it?
It feels like it. You know, essentially, I mean, there's certainly elements of the Christian music scene that's like, this is terrible and this is no good. But as far as like Newsboys, the Newsboys management and that whole team goes, and probably a bunch of the Christian music artists that were performing and their music was being played at Charlie Kirk's funeral, they're all just like buttoning down and like not addressing any of this stuff. And so I think the big question now within the world of Christian music is like, will this make a difference? And like, will people be accountable? And like, will there be changes made in other, in the dynamics of other tours and other like groups, or will nothing change and Michael Tait will be like the fall guy, but nothing will change?
To me, I mean, a lot of this is how awful the things Michael Tait was doing. But also to go back to what Aaron was telling us a little bit the week before about how his manager was saying the Christian music industry is so polluted.
Totally.
It, to me, speaks a lot about that as well.
100%. And I think it's a bit like, just in general, just like the megachurch culture, like they're not going to call each other out. Like they're all like pretty like money hungry. Yeah. And that's pretty clear.
Which though is also ironic given the morals that are supposed to be coming from
insane.
This.
I mean, that's always like the thing with all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
it's
the
like,
hypocrisy of it.
Yeah, it's funny. It would be funny if it wasn't so horrific and awful. Yeah. And that's what I like. I was talking with Hayden about this, who you always hear at the beginning of this podcast. And he's, because we both grew up in this scene. And we're both sort of talking about how like annoying it is. Like we genuinely looked at Michael Tait as being like cool and moral. And it's just fundamentally quite annoying to think he was having a blast on cocaine and getting drunk and so happy. Don't envy the awful shit, but I'm just like, he was doing all that shit that was like, we were told was like, I just feel frustrated.
Yeah.
That he was doing all that shit.
He was this icon to you.
Yeah, completely.
How
he was like snorting cocaine off like people's butts.
How silly it makes you probably feel to have been a kid
completely
idolizing this man that was doing that.
Yeah, and like Ozzy Osbourne would have been like a much more like moral and ethically sound person to like admire, you know? Which is just, it just feels like, oh God, like all that was just some bullshit too. Like, God. Yeah, so that's kind of part of it.
I mean, the other weird thing, the fact that they're a band with an owner. Like, this seems uniquely Christian music industry. Like, I know a lot of bands and a lot of people within it, and I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
No, I mean, I didn't know it either until this point. Like, also just to have like one man who like owns the entity.
I'm the CEO of this band and I'm not the singer.
So no, my understanding is a lot of the like the Newsboys members aren't like filthy rich. Like the money funnels straight to him and he'll like distribute. And he obviously, you know, Wes is suing this tiny, it's literally a husband and wife team, suing them for $5.4 million, which seems like a random amount, but that's the amount that he is being sued for by someone else. So it almost just seems like just a blatant like, fuck you, I'm going after this amount of money. But yeah, he's basically not admitting anything and is just looking to like take other people out.
It just makes it feel even more like the music is just a business.
Oh, completely.
When there's an owner and not about the expression of the music, which is what normally the point
100%
the point is.
No, like all the artistry is taken out of it, like, and it just makes you recontextualize all of that particular stuff.
Yeah. Which, I mean, obviously we know that the music industry is a business, but there is still that creativity and that artistry to it.
Even the Christian side of it feels somehow like even more of a business decision than secular music. And that's the thing. It's like a few of the people I spoke to for the story sort of said to me how it somehow seems more insidious in this world, because in the secular music world, like, you know that on tour there's going to be like drugs and sex and stuff. Whereas in the thing with this Christian world is it's all kind of just a stupid lie. All that shit's still there. It's just you're pretending it's not.
Yeah, you're pretending you're something you're not.
Completely.
Which makes it worse.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it's the same behavior that insert other artist.
100%. And that feels awful and grimy. I was also blown away. I didn't know about those God's Not Dead films. Like the fact there's a series of films starring Kevin Sorbo, one of them.
Yes, let's talk about
Freaking amazing.
Sorbo. Hercules.
Do you know him?
Hercules, right?
Hercules.
Yeah. I was big into Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess.
I did not know that about you.
I mean, when I was younger.
No, be into it now. Like those balls, like Xena Warrior Princess was the shit.
Yeah.
So that was all shot in New Zealand. So my understanding is Xena came first, and then Hercules came second. And just madly, Kevin Sorbo, who at the time as a kid, I was like, you're cool.
Until his image popped up in the doc, I would not have known him by name.
So Kevin is one of the most like deranged Republican tweeters you could imagine.
Okay. He's like a Dean Cain.
Yeah, he's Dean Cain level of like, he's like a parody, but he's being legit. And whereas Lucy Lawless, Xena, she's amazing. I think she still lives in New Zealand, and she's like a big environmental campaigner and just seems like the most kick-ass human you could imagine. Kevin Sorbo, massive piece of shit.
I mean, yeah, that was when I was watching those, it was when we didn't have TiVo or streamers.
No, it was like 8:30 p.m.
What's on USA Network? It's Xena and Hercules.
What one did you like the most?
I think I like Xena because she'd do that little yodel and flips.
You know, that was
those crazy.
Can you do
flips.
the yodel? Can you do it for me?
You know,
Xena rules. I've got some Xena figurines back in New Zealand.
Sure you do. I 100% believe that.
And there was always that there was that slight like lesbian subtext between her and who was her sidekick?
Was it her sister though?
No.
It was blonde, right?
Yeah, she was awesome. Yeah, so there's always that like subtle like sort of underlying thing there, which was kind of cool. And then occasionally I did some crossover episodes where like they'd be in the same thing.
I did like that kind of world building that they did
best.
and combining. And
yeah, when the X-Files did that with some other shows, they did it with Millennium and the Lone Gunman. Like any of those crossover shows in the 90s were the best.
Scooby-Doo.
Oh, what?
Scooby-Doo used to do that all the time with like the Harlem Globetrotters or Kiss or...
I had no idea. I never watched Scooby-Doo.
So it was like the 90s, 80s, 90s cartoon would do it.
It's like Shaggy in the van, right? And they'd solve crime.
Yeah. Calvin got into Scooby-Doo at one point.
Yeah.
And we're at the Hollywood Bowl seeing a show and they're like promoting upcoming shows and he sees a promo for Kiss and he's like, oh, Kiss is coming. I want to go see Kiss. And I was like, what?
How do you know
what Kiss is? And
Scooby-Doo.
It was from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, that's amazing. So like Gene Simmons would be like a voice actor.
They would be the cartoon, like the cartoon of Kiss would be in it and they'd be helping solve a crime or like,
oh my God.
Part of the mystery maybe had to do with them.
Yeah, right. We had Scooby-Doo in New Zealand. I just, for whatever reason, never saw it.
And then I think like WWE wrestling, there was a bunch of crossover with that too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I just feel like a bit icky about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you were a fan of Newsboys and DC Talk, I'd be curious like what you make of this. Flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. It's like one of these topics, like once you kind of start exploring it, you find it sort of everywhere. And like literally, I watched, because I was curious, I watched the whole Kirk Memorial and I was like, oh, this is all contemporary Christian music playing. And like, there's just weird timing. Like we'd just done these episodes and I'm like.
They're playing DC Talk and Newsboys?
Not DC Talk and Newsboys, but
okay.
some of the other like big heavyweights that were very much in this world and this scene. All right. Now, full disclosure, we recorded this episode straight after the last Christian music episode, so we don't have any of your feedback from that one.
I have one bit of feedback.
Oh, hello.
From this one. I let my mom know that my mom listens to the show.
Hi, Rob's mom.
And I let her know we were doing a Christian music episode coming up and that she was mentioned
yep
often.
Yeah.
And then I sent her an Under Oath song.
Oh, to listen to? Okay.
And was like, yeah, we talked to the Christian musician from this band. Take a listen and let me know if this aligns with your Christian music.
Yeah.
And her response was, that's a little more than what we play. It doesn't really sound Christian to me. And then she sent me a Pat Barrett song called Act Justly, Love Mercy, Walk Humbly. And said, that's more what I like. Oh. We play this at church.
That is exactly how my mum texts. Just like very straight.
Yeah.
Like, do you think she would have listened to the whole track?
Do you want me to? I'll play a little preview of what I played.
Oh, your poor mum. She's turning it off like right at this point. There's going to be some intense vocals coming in. Not Christian. You know, that's the point she's turning it off. I guarantee you.
Yeah, when the screaming starts, she turned it off.
I just love that. I love how parents engage with text. It's the best. Thanks, Rob's mum. As long as she's listening.
Yeah, we'll keep making this.
We'll keep making the show. A few bits of feedback, though, from some other epis. Elena wrote in, love the show. Listened since the beginning. Thank you, Elena. While listening to the Chipotle episode, I was super surprised to hear that you mentioned Mad Mex as a New Zealand version of Chipotle. I live in Pittsburgh, and there's a local restaurant chain here called Mad Mex. And it's not exactly like Chipotle or fast food. It's a sit-down restaurant with a bar. The food is very Americanized version of Mexican food, but it's good. Anyway, I was curious how there was also a Mad Mex in New Zealand and wondered if it was somehow the same chain. I found out a few things. Apparently, since 2023, there are no longer any Mad Mexes in New Zealand. Which, Rob, I did not know. Apparently, it's an Australian-owned and based chain, and sounds like there might be Mad Mexes outside of Australia too. The Australian-owned Mad Mex chain is not the same as the Pittsburgh Mad Mex chain, but the founder of the Australian-owned Mad Mex chains based it off the original Mad Mex, which he was first introduced to while in college in Pittsburgh. So, in short, it's inspired by the Pittsburgh Mad Mex, apparently, but not the same thing. Super weird. Thought you might find it interesting. I always admire anyone that does a deep dive.
That chef, Nate Appleman, that helped revamp Chipotle's menu, he now lives in Australia.
Oh my God, it deepens.
And he's running food development, doing something with Guzman y Gomez.
Right.
Because I reached out to him to talk to us about Chipotle, but said he's working for their competitor now in Australia.
There's some kind of like American, Mexican, Australian synergy happening.
I did see also some feedback that people were disappointed we didn't mention Qdoba.
What is that?
It's a lot like Chipotle.
Okay.
There was a bunch in Chicago. I liked Qdoba. I think I preferred them for a little bit over Chipotle. I know they had a partnership with the Blackhawks during their reign.
That was part of it.
And they had some of the players made their own burritos.
Do you think potentially they made a better burrito, or were you swayed by the branding?
I was swayed by the branding.
Yeah.
They were very, very similar. I don't know the difference between the two.
If it was a blind taste test, you'd struggle.
I would struggle.
Bit of feedback about how you pronounced Chipotle versus Chipotle.
I sometimes gloss over the T.
The T.
The T scares me. I don't know.
You don't want to be a hard
I don't
T.
want to say it wrong.
Chipotle.
I've heard people say it very wrong.
Rob, I think everything you say is perfect, in my humble opinion. Julie wrote in regards to me rambling on during the Subway episode about Jared being a person associated with a brand and New Zealand having no sort of iconic people associated.
Uh-oh.
I got it very wrong. I can't believe, David, you forgot the Briscoes lady. Briscoes is a chain we have in New Zealand, Rob. It's like kind of like a Target, I guess. But the Briscoes lady, iconic. She's been around for like hundreds of years. She's
hundreds
amazing.
Of years. Is she a cartoon?
She is a real human.
But she's been around hundreds of years?
No, she's been around. It seems like she's always existed.
But she's a human.
She's a human.
Okay.
She's a human
woman.
An
actress? Or she's just...
No, she's just like this likable, wonderful woman who's in all the Briscoes ads. She's very excited about the sales that they have. Mm-hmm. And she's just like part of the fabric of our entire culture. She's just so lovely and pure and just like, she's like your mum.
She doesn't look that old either.
I never said she did.
You said she's been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I didn't say she looked old, though. She's like a beautiful woman that's been around for hundreds of years. Old people can also be beautiful, Rob.
Yeah.
Don't judge.
Somehow turn that
Got
on me.
you. Got you, you bastard. So I just want to give tribute to the Briscoes lady because she is iconic.
Call David if you're listening.
Call me. flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. I'd put you on the show. Finally, she just said, many years ago, I worked with a chap who had a bit of a thing for the Briscoes lady, and someone made him a calendar with her image scattered all through it. Slightly creepy.
That's a good idea for the holidays this year.
Flightless Bird calendar?
Flightless Bird calendar.
I don't think anyone wants that. But if you do,
sound off in the comments
just
or
email
us.
flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com how much you would pay for it.
Yeah.
It's got to be a big moneymaker for the show. And just say maybe what you want to see in that calendar.
Or maybe we just crowdsource this calendar.
What, like listeners? Please flight hot cool listeners?
No. Like crowd fund, I guess.
Oh, the calendar.
Fund the calendar. If enough people
Jesus.
let us know how much they're
truly terrifying. Yeah, all right. The moral of this episode, Christian music may not be made by the most morally sound people. Some of it is, some of it isn't. If you listen to the Newsboys, maybe stop. Listen to the Newsboys, and we'll
listen
be
to
back next
Under
week.
Oath.
Listen to Under Oath. Under Oath, 2 thumbs up.
Or Page of the Lion.
Yeah.
Or
multiple quality
Danielson.
bands out there. Yeah. Jars of Clay, my faves, still doing well. No sex scandals just yet. That'll be next week on Flightless Bird. See you next week.
See you next week.